Welcome to Diasporaa, the show where we share the remarkable stories of immigrants from the Indian subcontinent. I'm your host, Aditya Mehta, and each week we sit down with individuals who have made the journey over and explore their experiences, their challenges, their triumphs. We delve into their unique perspectives on adapting to a new culture while staying connected to them. Our guest for today is Lekshmi Sreedharan, originally from Trivandrum in Kerala. She worked in the capital markets in India before she moved to Canada in 2021 to Toronto, where she's continued to work in the same profession. She's also Miss India World Universal for 2025 and Canada Business Elite's Top 40 Under 40. Lots to unpack here. With that, Lakshmi, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Aditya.
So, you're from Trivandrum, which is also called Thiruvananthapuram, which is, I guess, the original name. If it were a city in North America, what would you compare?
That's a difficult question, but I think probably I can relate that to Vancouver.
Okay. So, just some context for our guests. I said two names because most cities in India have an old British name, which is kind of easier to say version of the original name. So, how Mumbai became Bombay, Bengaluru became Bangalore, Chennai became Madras, Thiruvananthapuram became Trivandrum. So, you're originally from Kerala. It's one of my favorite places in India for sure. Tell us more about the state of Kerala and what makes it unique.
Obviously, known by the name that God's own country.
Yeah.
It is popular for the scenic beauty and all the water bodies, rich in culture and some amazing people.
Just fun things and pretty things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just some fun things and pretty things.
Yeah. I've always noticed that people from Kerala are Malayali first and their religion and their other differences come later.
That is so true because if I look at my childhood, I grew up with people around me in the community who are from different religion.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize it until I moved out of Kerala when I
Yeah.
started meeting people from other cities. That is when we started talking about religion and
Yeah.
people kind of point out which religion you are. But until then, back home, it's just friends or, it's just a community that you
Yeah.
grew up with. There is no religion there. We celebrate Onam and Christmas and Eid and
Yeah.
everything at
Yeah.
the same pace.
So why do you think that happens? Because other parts of country, your religion usually comes first or your other identities come first. So is it something that's to do with Kerala's long interaction with the world? Like it's been a trading community and a community where people travel abroad routinely. Is it because of that or is there some other reason as to why everyone is just more tolerant and just gets along?
Honestly, I don't know the exact answer because I was equally curious. It was like a cultural shock when I moved out of
Yeah.
Kerala and experienced that difference. You're probably right. It goes back in history, when we
Yeah.
were trading with the outside world. And I know there is a lot of population who are residing outside India.
Yeah.
It could be the exposure and it could be the learning that is, flowing back to the
Yeah.
home city.
Yeah. So you grew up in Trivandrum and you studied there as well. What was the city like growing up? Was it like a pretty, bustling and kind of interesting city where lots of things were happening, or was it a pretty quiet place to grow up? Because being from Bombay people are notorious for not knowing anything outside what happens outside the country or the city. So I'm genuinely ignorant and curious as to what kind of city was it when you were growing up?
I don't know about other people from Trivandrum, but I was more or less similar to what you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I grew up in Trivandrum and I had very less exposure to what was happening around the world.
Yeah.
So for me, that was home and it was a quiet and vibrant city that is emotionally very close to my heart.
Okay. Awesome. You also started working in India, and I think you worked in many cities in India. So, of all the cities that you lived in India, which city was your favorite and why? Besides your hometown. Yeah.
Oh, that will be Bangalore.
Yeah.
I can say that blindly. It's just the people, the weather, the food, and the experiences that I had back in India.
Yeah.
It was fun. It has a lot of memories.
Was it as crazy traffic and bustling in a big city back then?
Probably that's the only complaint I would have in
Yeah.
terms of traffic. That was, oh, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Getting stuck in the traffic for 3 hours to get to the
Yeah.
city, that is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the difference was when COVID hit, I took the same, ride to airport,
Yeah.
and it got me to the airport in 45 minutes.
Sure. We used to have an office in Jayanagar, and I used to visit that office regularly. And one day I had a 9 p.m. flight back to Bombay. And at 3 p.m., my branch manager is like, "Sir, you should leave for the airport."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "It's 6 hours. Like, what are you talking about?" He's like, "No, it will take you 3.5 hours to get from Jayanagar to the airport. And then you will get onto the flight." So I've never seen Bangalore quiet. Like, I've already been going there regularly since it became a very big city. And I feel somewhere that Bangalore mentally is not as big a city in its own mind than Bombay. Like, Bombay is used to being a big city.
Yeah.
But I think Bangalore is still kind of getting there and slowly becoming used to the fact that it's a big global city, which is, a hub of so many things. What made you decide to move to Canada in the first place?
So after my graduation, I started my career back in India,
Yeah.
and I started with an oil and gas company. That was my first job. Then close to 1 year later, I got an opportunity with one of the French investment banks, and that is where my banking career started. And it reached a point where I was asking myself in terms of, how you want to live your life and
Yeah.
where do you want to be. And that is the time when I started exploring immigration opportunities, where I wanted to, get the global exposure, living in a different country, working in a
Yeah.
different culture. So that is how Canada came up. And then rest is history.
Yeah. And when you said you wanted to move abroad, was your family pretty supportive of it? Were they worried for you? Because still in, more conservative parts of India, it's like, oh, our daughter is going to go live
Yeah.
alone abroad. So did you face any challenges on that front, or were they fine with it?
It was a mixed emotion, I would say. A part of it was being a single girl who was raised in India from a very conservative family.
Yeah.
They were worried about my safety and how I'm going to manage everything in a
Yeah.
different country altogether. But on the other side, they were happy for me that I'm going to get to experience a different
Yeah.
country and a different experience.
Yeah.
So I would say it was a mixed emotion for them.
And was it always Canada, or were you thinking, I want to move abroad and let's see where I can go? Or did Canada specifically interest you?
Yeah, so I went with an open mindset, and if I was getting an opportunity internally through my work, I was open to explore any city that came up. And Canada was the easiest option, I
Yeah.
would say, at that point, because the immigration pathway was very simple and the process was not complicated and the timeline was quick, so
Yeah.
I went with that.
How long did it take end to end for the
Oh my
process?
God, that's a very interesting question, because the time when I applied for the PR, the processing time was around 3 months to 6 months for an
Okay.
average application.
Okay.
But COVID has to hit exactly at the same time,
Yeah.
and the application period extended for almost 2 years, like
Okay.
1 year and 10 months.
Okay.
And that delayed my whole plan.
So my original platform called Diasporaa, that through which we know each
Yeah.
other, that was born right out of this, that there were people who had either sold everything in India and were ready to board a flight but got stuck,
Yeah.
or there were people who landed here and were burning money without any job, without anything, and stuck at home because COVID hit. So this was my way of kind of helping those people assimilate faster and get going quicker in a new country where they probably didn't know anything. So that was indeed a difficult time. We moved in 2018, my wife and I, and our process took 3 weeks, literally.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, because we had very high score, the CRS score. And as soon as we applied, the next day there was a draw and we got an ITA. And we had all our documents ready. My assistant at the time, Forum, she did a fantastic job putting in all the application documents within, I think, literally 3 days. And then we got a call for medical 2 days later. And we got a call about another 10 days to send our passports for the stamping. So it turned out to be a very, very quick in my life, everything that happens quick happens for the best. So, and what was the particular path that you applied for? Was it the express entry or something else?
Again, that's a very interesting question. I was eligible for the direct express entry. The
Yeah.
scores were like decent.
Yeah.
But when COVID hit, I don't know if you remember, that was the time when the scores started going up.
Yeah.
So I was at the border. And I also had an opportunity to apply through the Ontario nomination
Okay.
program. And I was thinking whether I should go with that path because you will be restricted to work in Ontario.
Right.
And looking at the COVID situation, I finally decided to pursue that pathway to take PR.
I think a lot of people use the Alberta nomination or the Saskatchewan one, but then they never actually ended up working there because they are very small states comparatively,
Yeah.
especially Saskatchewan or Manitoba. And then they would just move right away to Vancouver or Toronto. So, if not for the OINP, would you still have moved to Toronto or maybe a different city?
See, it for me, when you're coming from a country like India, and this is like the other part of the world, you do not know anything about any of the cities.
Yeah.
And Toronto was kind of a safe opportunity for me from
Yeah.
a career perspective because my experience back home was in the banking.
Sure.
And Toronto is kind of the financial capital of the
Yeah.
country. And it was giving me kind of a job security to look for
Sure.
opportunities. So probably that would have been the first option.
Yeah. For us, it was always Vancouver because we were moving for quality of life and
Yeah.
not for necessarily for the job opportunities. I had a tech startup. I could run it from anywhere. So we ended up just moving to Vancouver. And what was your first impression of Toronto? Like the day you landed, what was that first image you saw of the city or the first impression?
So the first impression of the city, see, the day I landed, it was snowing heavily. So
Mhm.
that is how I experienced the city for first time.
Yeah.
It was exciting, like as
Yeah.
an immigrant who is moving to a country that is on the northern hemisphere with extreme temperature.
Yeah.
Seeing snow for the not first time, I've seen that back home in the northern side of India, but experiencing it in Toronto was a different
Yeah.
experience altogether. And it's a different culture, right? There was obviously a cultural shock comparing India with the northern side of the world.
Yeah. Were there any funny instances that happened due to this culture shock? Like something you said or the words you use for things are different. So, were there any such instances that you had in your early days?
Obviously, accent is different.
Yeah.
And I didn't face much of a challenge, but there were occasions when, you have to repeat yourself
Yeah.
or make people understand what exactly you want to convey. Those kind of challenges were there. The major difference or the initial struggle for me was public transportation. I didn't know how the public transportation was working on this side of the world. And even taking the Uber, like
Yeah.
putting your address in the app,
Yeah.
it is slightly different from what you see back home.
Sure.
And when I see a street address, I have to call and ask that person, like,
Yeah.
what is the exact unit number or,
Sure.
like, what is the exact location that I have to, because I didn't know that is how it works here.
Yeah. So India uses landmark based direction.
Correct.
So we say, opposite this mall or next to this
Right.
bus stop. Whereas here it will be, the southwest corner of 21st and Main Street, right? So that does take the time to get used to it.
The north, west, south, east is what I'm still
Yeah.
struggling with.
Yeah,
in
it's
this
like, how
place.
do you know at any time what you are facing, right?
Exactly.
In Seattle, it's even more confusing because streets have direction in them. So it'll say Southwest 21st Avenue or 21st Avenue Southwest. And it's not a southwest facing street. It's not even in the southwest of the city. But so that was even more confusing by normal American standard. Did you know anyone in Canada or in Toronto when you landed there?
I just knew two people here.
Yeah.
When I moved here, one was a friend from school, and the other person whom I used to live with back in Chennai.
Yeah.
And she was unfortunately on mat leave at that point of time. She wasn't available.
Yeah.
But my other friend, he was my address proof for all the ID cards
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah. Did you have a place to stay right away or were you in a hotel?
No. I booked a hotel for the first 5 days. Then I was moving from Airbnb to Airbnb.
Yeah.
Then I eventually found a place in downtown because I was actively looking for banking opportunities, and most of the banks are
Yeah.
based in Toronto and in downtown. So I was trying to find a place within downtown, and luckily, after 2 months, I was able to find something, and I did.
Did you want to move to Indian heavy part of town like Brampton at all, or was you just didn't want to do that consciously, or was it mainly the job that took you?
It was a conscious decision
Yeah.
because coming from a city like Bangalore, where I spend like 2 to 4 hours just in commute,
Yeah.
just for
You didn't want to do that.
Yeah, I didn't want
Yeah.
to do that, and I was very particular that whichever city I'm moving going forward, I want to find a place that is closer to my work location.
Sure.
Obviously, things might change in future, but right now,
Yeah.
that is my priority.
No, I think the higher rent is offset by the time you save by not commuting. It's
Yeah.
also offset by greater access to other people, other opportunities, networking event, things, cultural and art things that you can attend. A lot of people have the approach which is opposite, which is I have $1,200 to spend. So if that means I go far, then I go far.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always been this is where I need to stay, and it costs 300 more than my budget. So then, how do I find a way to make that 300 versus saying, no, I'll live 1 hour away? I have told this story on this radio station before, but there were these two couples from Bombay who moved around the same time during COVID in Vancouver. One, the husband was in finance, the wife was in marketing. Both of them, very, very identical. One went to Surrey in Vancouver, one came to downtown. And the one in downtown has thrived so much since they've come. The Surrey couple eventually went back because they got very disillusioned that, Canada is not what they say it is. And I'm like, but you didn't come to Canada. You went to Surrey, and that's a mini India. So
Yeah.
you're surrounded by other new immigrants who have the same shared experience. And it's very, you could have done this in India, like just live in an Indian neighborhood and not experience anything that the country has to offer. So I think it's a smart decision that you are in downtown. How has Toronto changed in the last 5 years that you've been there?
Yeah, so when I landed in Toronto back in 2021, it was exactly during the COVID time, and the city was kind of silent. I don't know how else to define it. Like if you take a transit, like a subway or
Yeah.
a streetcar, you barely see anyone.
Yeah.
There is not much crowd, and I was surprised. So I didn't know what to expect because I haven't
Yeah.
seen Toronto before COVID.
Yeah.
But in the last 1 to 2 years, the way I look at it, I cannot compare it with New York, but still it is a busy city.
Yeah.
There's a lot happening, there's a lot going around. And I think if you're ambitious,
It's a good city to be.
yeah.
Yeah, so we were in Vancouver before COVID, and there were days when there were 3 cruise ships parked in the harbor on the same, because it's a cruise term, and the sheer hustle and bustle of downtown was just phenomenal. And then, of course, in COVID, it disappeared, and I think now it's kind of back to where it was. I don't think Seattle has recovered to that point. Vancouver has definitely become the same amount of hustle and bustle. With that, let's go into our first break. And when we return, I want to talk about finding your feet in your career in Canada when not having Canadian experience. So stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
You served behind the desk.
You served in combat.
You did 4 years and got out.
You were drafted.
You gave 20 years.
You gave exactly what your country needed.
And so did you.
When you raised your hand and swore an oath to your country, when you put your name on a dotted line, you became part of only 1% of Americans who did the same. You are a veteran.
You are a veteran.
You are a veteran. Because no matter when, where, or how you served, you made a sacrifice for your country, and you deserve support.
If you're struggling with life after service, don't wait. Reach out.
Reach out to a loved one, to a fellow veteran, to VA.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and the Ad Council.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diasporaa, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diasporaa offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diasporaa Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Talking about guns with others might not always feel comfortable, but it could save a life. Here's a way to start a conversation. Your family is going over to your neighbor's home for dinner for the first time. How would you ask if there are any unlocked guns in the home?
Hey,
Hey, we're so excited for tonight. Before we come over, though, may I ask if there are any unlocked guns in your home?
our guns are stored securely, locked in a safe that the kids can't access.
Awesome.
Learn how to have the conversation at agreetoagree.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Chris Erdman. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creative minds, and game changers to uncover the real stories behind their business. On my show, Made of More, we explore the challenges that they've overcome, the breakthroughs that they've celebrated, and the mindset that drives them forward. If you're ready to unlock your full entrepreneurial potential, Made of More is the show for you, because here we know you are made of more. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW.
Ready to shake things up? Try Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back to Diaspora on KKNW, where we share interesting stories of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent. We're talking to Lekshmi Sreedharan. She's a Miss India World Universal 2025 and a banking professional. Before we get back to talking to Lakshmi, I want to take a moment to remind you to subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You can find all our episodes in video format there, right from the first one. So before the break, Lakshmi, we were talking about like your early days in Canada. Before I go into the career aspect, how did you make your first few friends here? Were they contacts of your, the couple of people you knew, or did you have other avenues?
It was either work or, friends of friends. And another reason that I love Toronto is because, like I said, there are so many opportunities out there.
Yeah.
And back home in India, when I was working, like I said, it's 9 to 5, and then you commute. So
Yeah.
Back in India, it's more like a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
And the remaining time goes in commute.
Yeah.
And you barely get time for yourself. But
Sure.
after moving to Toronto, the first thing that I did was, signing up for activities that I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So
Such as?
for a couple of years, I was training with National Ballet of Canada for
Wow.
ballet.
Okay.
And then I signed up for piano. Like, all these are my childhood dreams,
Yeah.
which I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
But then growing up, you're pushed towards studies, or, then
Sure.
you get focused with your work. And
Yeah.
I'm actually living that dream right now, I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah. So I had a big bucket list, but we got pregnant before we finished a year in Canada. So that flexibility was very short lived. But then in COVID, my wife and son were stuck in India for 6 months. And then in 2021 also they went for a long trip. So I systematically knocked off everything on my bucket list. And like you said, when you're not spending so much time just commuting or meeting social obligations, and, because in India you do a lot of things because you have to.
Yeah.
So none of that was here. It's a life of your choosing. It's everything in that life is of your choosing. So, like where you live, who you will spend time with, what you will drive and whatnot. So for me, that was very addictive. And I got so I went night kayaking, for example.
Nice.
In Vancouver, you can do that.
Yeah.
And, just many such like just silly things that I learned snowboarding, for example. So I'm glad you actually did that. Did you find that it was hard to make friends? Because in Vancouver, we have the Vancouver freeze, or in Seattle, we have the Seattle freeze, that people are not friendly. People are not talking to you. So did you face that, or was it relatively easy?
I'll put it this way. Toronto is like a multicultural city.
Yeah.
You have people from all over the world.
Yeah.
And you grew up in India, which is filled with its own culture, and
Yeah.
it has different traditions, and easy to connect with people over there
Yeah.
because you're from there.
Yeah.
And once I moved to Toronto, the difficulty was connecting with people. It's not that people are difficult,
Sure.
but you're just two different people.
Right.
And it took a while for me also to understand and blend along with that. I wouldn't say it's difficult, but if you're open for that,
Yeah.
then there are avenues available, there are communities that are existing out there, and it's not that difficult to make friends.
So one thing we learned very early on is that when we lived in India, if someone moved to Bombay, did I ever take an effort to reach out to that person or help that person? My family's been there for 100 years in Bombay, fourth generation Gujaratis. So then why would I expect someone to do that here for me?
Yeah.
So for us, it was like the onus is always on you to reach out to people. If then they don't help out, sure, that's a different story. But then whenever we reached out to people, we always found that everyone was
They were
friendly
open for a conversation.
because our focus was on giving, not taking. And we were like, we're here, this is our background, this is our global exposure. How can we help you, or how can we be of use to you as a new immigrant? And I saw that people would give us meetings, people would become friends, all sorts of things. So I'm glad you did that as well. When you were looking for jobs in Canada, did you face this very infamous, do you have Canada experience, a question at all?
Not really. To be very honest, that is something that I heard before moving
Yeah.
here, that you need Canadian experience to find an opportunity here. But contradicting to that, I did get a couple of calls for interviews and discussions.
Yeah,
And touch wood, it worked for me.
that's good.
And I actually came during the peak COVID time, so I was
Yeah.
more worried.
Yeah,
But like I said, it worked for me, and I was able to find a job within 2 months after
Yeah.
landing. And
And did it help that you had worked with like multinational corporations so that they knew the names of the companies, or did that not really matter?
I do not know.
Okay.
You just apply on their
Yeah.
on their career
Yeah,
portal.
I had applied for this because we were clear we don't want to do the survival job. So we applied, rather I applied for this marketing gig. It was like a head of marketing for an app. And they were like, oh, everything looks good, but do you have Canada experience? I said, I have built an app company from scratch and sold it. I have worked on apps which have millions of users. So isn't that enough for you? Because an app is an app.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, you need to have Canada experience. You need to have worked in Canada. I said, okay, so if I had worked in a coffee shop in Canada, would that have been good enough? They're like, yeah, that would have been good enough. So I'm very happy that you didn't have to face that issue.
It could be the difference in professions too. Like there
Sure.
are professions where you can transition the skill set.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I do not.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense because I have one of my first guests was, and she's also part of our diaspora community. She got a job in 2 weeks because she was in software, and that's
Yeah.
a very easily transferable job. So I think that does make sense. But did you get a job in like your functional area of capital markets and banking right away, or did you have to kind of ease your way into an org? Because I have, for example, I have a friend who's a debt market analyst, but she got into a bank, but she started off as a teller in the retail branch and then worked her way into the company. So was that the case with you, or was it pretty much what you wanted right from the start?
So I started with a telecom company as a project manager. That was the first job that I got, and I picked what I got first because you're new to the country and you have
Yeah.
to build your life. But
Sure.
fortunately, 4 months down the lane, I got an opportunity with one of the banks in Canada.
Okay.
And in the exact same role that I always wanted to be.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. So let's talk about the Miss India World Universal pageant. How did you end up participating in that?
It was an amazing journey. How it started is a very interesting question because prior to signing up for pageant, I was dealing with certain health issues, and I underwent 2 surgeries in the last probably 4 years or 5 years. One was just before moving to Canada, like literally 2 or 3 months before.
Yeah.
And one was last year in May. And it did take a toll on me. Like I came to this country with a lot of dreams and, I wanted to do this and that. And
Yeah.
that took an emotional strain on everything that I planned. And pageant journey was something that I never planned. It just came out of nowhere, I would say. Pageant journey was something that came up with at a time when I was not expecting it. So I had a surgery back in May in 2024, and after that, I took a while to emotionally come out of it, emotionally and physically. It was around the same time I discovered this opportunity with one of the pageants in Canada, and I was titled with Miss North America Toronto 2024.
Yeah.
And from there, with that title, I got an opportunity to compete in Miss Canada in 2024. I finished in the top 5. And later on, it was the same organizers as Miss World Universal, and they extended the opportunity to represent India in Miss World Universal that was happening in Thailand in 2025. Actually, this June. It's been only a couple of months, but yeah, so that is how my journey with Miss World Universal started.
Interesting. How did you discover this thing in the first place?
Like I said, I never planned taking part in a pageant. I wanted to do something different.
Sure.
I have been always, working in the banking industry and
Yeah.
more of a corporate kind of environment. And like I said, there are things that I wanted to do and learn. That is when I signed up for ballet and
Yeah.
learning piano. When this thing showed up in my social media profile, I was curious to explore. That is something that I have never done before, and I wanted to, kind of experience it and learn it.
Yeah.
That is a glamorous world that we have
Yeah.
always seen from a distance.
Yeah.
And I was like, why not? And I was asking so many questions to myself in terms of my appearance, my health, my age.
Yeah.
I started getting gray hair. So there are so many questions that I had to ask myself before signing up for that. But the more I thought about it, there reached a point where I was like, let me go for it.
Yeah.
And let's see what is waiting for me.
Was it pretty like rigorous in terms of the prep you had to do? Because I guess you need to know how to model or answer questions, or have that grace and poise and things like that. So how did you learn those things? Like, did they teach you as part of being in the pageant, or is that something you had to go out and learn yourself?
It was mix of both. So when I competed in the nationals, I was like a newbie into the pageant industry, and I did get training from the organizers themselves. But then the actual training started when I started competing for the internationals. And I took training from one of the pageant coach, a veteran coach back in India. She trained Miss World and, Miss Universe and all the major pageants across the world.
Yeah.
Her name is Rita Gangwani. And I took training from her prior to, competing
Yeah.
in the internationals in Miss World Universal.
Okay. So you mentioned about the glamour quotient of the pageant. Is there, I'm sure there's a lot more to it in terms of behind the scenes work, stress, and, other things that come with something which is like high stakes, high pressure like this. So how was your experience behind the scenes with that?
So to my previous point, like I said, when you look at pageant, you look at it like a glamorous space.
Yeah.
But when you actually step into it, you learn a lot. It's much more than beauty.
Yeah.
It's a big responsibility, honestly, getting a title. You're holding that title for, whatever specific period of
Sure.
time. And it's more about giving back to the community.
Yeah.
And the amount of, stress is a different question altogether, but it's all about the hard work that is going behind it.
Let's move on to another question. Yeah. You also have the title of something called Indian Achievers. So tell me more about what that is.
So Indian Achievers Club is a community in India, and I received a communication from one of their organizers saying that they have received a nomination.
Okay.
And that is how the journey started. And I received an award for Most Inspiring Women Achievers of India in 2024.
Wow. Do you know who nominated you?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't think they will share that information, but yeah.
You've also done some work with some agencies that are you've affiliated to the United Nations.
That's correct.
So tell us more about that.
So I should start with my advocacy. So I'm a strong supporter of child education and child cancer awareness.
Yeah.
So back home in India, while I was studying as well as once I started working, I started collaborating with organizations that are affiliated with United Nations who are offering child education support to communities that actually do not have access to education in the rural side of India. So I worked with an organization, I don't recall the name right now, it was a couple of years ago, and it was a global program where they identified educational providers in different cities across the world who were working in different time zones. And it was divided into different projects, and you were assigned educational institutions in the rural areas. And I was one of the project managers at that time for a community back in, I think it was in Chennai. It's been a few years, so I'm not able to recall all the details, but I was managing a team of, I think, 4 to 5 people at that time who was providing educational support to students in a foster care home. And then later I got an additional responsibility for another educational institution in Kerala. So it was a global program, and yeah, it was an interesting experience.
Okay. Great. Would you move back to India?
It's a difficult question. Someone told me once that you should never say never.
Yeah.
At this point, if you ask me, probably no, but I do not know how things will change or how things will evolve on my personal side in the coming years.
Yeah. Do you feel it'll get harder the longer you stay?
It might, because the way I look at things have changed as we grow up, as we age, I would say. And as we age, you need a space where you're comfortable with. And uplifting yourself and moving to a different city over time is going to be difficult.
Yeah.
So if I want to move back to India, that is a decision that I have to take quickly, I would say. But then there are other factors that you want to consider. So it's a difficult question at this point of time, but I'm not thinking about moving back.
I feel like the biggest thing for me, apart from the quality of life, would be the work culture. The work culture is very different back there and here. Did you notice the difference in work culture when you started working here? And if so, what was different?
There is a difference. I wouldn't say there are no differences. But back home, I was working for all these investment banks from, various countries. And the banking culture is not way too different.
Okay.
I'll probably put it that way. And I haven't worked with any other industry, so I do not know how it works differently. But that way, I haven't noticed much difference. The banking culture is more or less same in both the countries.
Okay. Got it. Well, with that, let's move into a short break. And when we come back, we'll talk about what lies in the future for you and also about any advice that you have for other new immigrants. Stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
Real talent is defined by what people can do, not where they learn to do it. So by stopping at the education section of a resume, you might throw away the perfect hire. You might miss someone who has valuable skills to offer to help your business thrive right now and in the future. Because the truth is this: Skills First Hiring helps you see talent others miss, like more than 70 million stars, skilled through alternative routes. When you let their story unfold, you gain a competitive advantage. Because hiring managers who start with skills are 60% more likely to find a successful hire. See the real person. Complete. See what others miss. Hire skills first. Learn why it's a competitive advantage at tearthepaperceiling.org. Brought to you by Opportunity at Work and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Chris Erdman. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creative minds, and game changers to uncover the real stories behind their business. On my show, Made of More, we explore the challenges that they've overcome, the breakthroughs that they've celebrated, and the mindset that drives them forward. If you're ready to unlock your full entrepreneurial potential, Made of More is the show for you because here we know you are made of more. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW.
Imagine home. The smell of coffee, the sound of a lawnmower, the sun's warmth on your face. Free to be yourself, surrounded by love that helps you grow. This is a place to call home. That's an American dream we all deserve. But in 50% of U.S. states, you could legally be denied housing if you are LGBTQ+. Get the facts and hear real stories at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diasporaa, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diasporaa offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diasporaa Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Find our app in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store and take us with you wherever you go. Alternative Talk AM 1150.
Welcome back to Diaspora on KKNW, where we share interesting stories of first-generation immigrants from South Asia. We're talking to Lekshmi Sreedharan. She's a banking professional and a beauty pageant participant. Before we jump back into the conversation, if you like listening to our show, please consider following us on Instagram or leaving us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. So Lakshmi, you've been there for about 4 years, I guess, and I guess life is moving along, life is settled. What lies in the future for you from here on? Just plan to continue working in banking and doing more pageants, or do you have anything else that's on your radar?
Right now, I'm trying to focus more on my career.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'm at a pace of my life where I'm trying to think what is lying ahead, or, like to your previous question, do I want to move back to India, or what exactly do I want to do going forward? So it's difficult to answer that question right now because that is exactly what I'm going through, trying to figure out where I want to be and whether I want to continue in banking. Is that what is making me happy? So yeah.
Any particular hobbies that you, besides the piano and the ballet, that you're pursuing?
I'm trying to take a pause right now. Like I said, I wanted to figure out what I want to do going forward. So I'm taking a break from everything and trying to focus a little bit on my health.
Yeah, no, that's a full stop right there.
Something that I'm trying to pursue right now is to get it's interesting, but I'm trying to get my pilot license. But that will all depend on how my medical goes and if they're comfortable with everything that happened with me.
Yeah.
And if that works out, then that is what I'm looking forward to next.
It's funny because that's something I seriously considered doing, maybe at the start of last year, I guess, or a start of 23. But I concluded that I enjoyed aviation and being a business class passenger more than I enjoyed flying the plane myself. So I did take a discovery flight. And they take you in Seattle up to, you take it from Everett and then you go further north up to Arlington and then back. So I got to take off the plane. I got to navigate a little bit while it was flying, but I don't know if I could do hundreds of hours of this. It's probably not suited for me. So I know that immigration has dried up in Canada considered to 2021. But if someone were moving today, is there any advice you would like to give them?
Right now, see, the market is very challenging at this point. Even Canada, from a government perspective, they are trying to revive the economy. So I'm not sure if I can give that advice that, this is the right time to move to Canada.
But if someone were moving right now, what advice could you give them so that they could succeed compared to any other new immigrant who comes out cold, who has never been abroad? And there's a lot of those who come to Canada like that. So what advice would you give them to give them a little bit of a head start?
The first advice would be more open to the culture.
Yeah.
It's a new city. It's completely different from where you grew up with.
Yeah.
That is a part where most people get stuck with. They stop realizing that, or they don't realize that, you're moving to a new country. And especially when we have a big Indian community here, people often get stuck within that, small communities.
Yeah.
But be more open to the culture of this country and
Sure.
be more open to learning and be more adaptive. And I think there are a lot of opportunities out there. It's not impossible, but just be more open.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Let's move into our weekly segments now. Yeah, every week we do these segments, a little bit lighthearted way to end the show. And let's spin that wheel and see what we land on. So it is our crowd favorite, the mango memories. Most people from our part of the world have some memory associated with mangoes that they're very fond of. So do you have any mango memories from your childhood or even from your adulthood?
Lots of memories, honestly. So I grew up at my father's home. My dad passed away when I was 11. Then we relocated back to his home.
Yeah.
And we have this small, big backyard behind the house,
Yeah.
which is filled with so many varieties of mangoes or mango trees.
Yeah.
And my memory about my childhood is, running around and climbing the trees and plucking the mangoes. So that is one thing that I miss here,
Yeah.
because in this side of the world, you're so stuck between four walls and you don't get that much of exposure
Yeah.
to the outside world or to the nature.
Yeah.
That is something I'm missing
Yeah.
from my childhood.
Yeah.
How I'm compensating, I like around my office, there are places that still sell, mangoes
Yeah.
and the juices. So I'm
Yeah.
a regular customer there.
Right. Whoever tells me that, oh, you should try Filipino mangoes or Mexican mangoes, I say there's no comparison between Indian mangoes.
Till now, I have never gotten the taste of those mangoes that I used to
Yeah.
have back home.
Do you remember any of the varieties that you had?
There are so many varieties. It's just that I don't know how to translate that to English because those
Yeah.
are local names.
What are they called?
There is one that we used to have in our backyard. It's called Kotukonam.
Okay.
And that is the sweetest mango that I've ever had in my life.
Okay. I've noticed that people have different favorite mangoes depending on where they're from in India.
Yeah.
So in Maharashtra, it's always Hafus, which is also called Alfonso mango.
Alfonso mango.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Gujarat, it's Kesar and Rajapuri.
Mm.
In North India and UP especially, the funny thing is they're called Bombay Green. In Andhra and Tamil Nadu, you'll have Banganapallis. So depends on,
I've tried all of them, by
You've
the way.
tried all of them. I'm not surprised. Well,
I'm
thanks
a
for
huge mango fan.
yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think we have time for one more weekly segment. So let's spin the wheel again. So this one is called Sounds and Smells. Do you have any sounds or smells, good or bad, that when you get to hear or smell them, you are instantly transported back to your home?
When we say sounds, probably I'm a huge fan of classical music.
Mm-hmm.
I did learn classical music for a couple of years back home, and that is something that is very close to my heart. I would say I'm an old school. I still go back and listen to the 90s melodies and, all those songs. So music is something that always hit me.
Yeah. Nice. Good. We've had way too many people say the smell of the first rain.
Yeah.
To the point where I stopped asking this question because it was the only answer. So I'm glad you had a very unique one.
No, I'm with them. Especially that smell of the rain when
Yeah.
it hits the ground.
Yeah.
That, I don't know, what is it? The earthly smell or the
Yes.
smell of the earth?
Yeah.
That is, that's amazing.
Yeah. We don't get that much in Bombay because there's not much mud to begin
Yeah.
with, but it is a good one. Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you for listening to Diasporaa. We hope you enjoyed Lakshmi's interesting stories. Remember to check out our show notes for links and more information about the topics we talked about today. Diasporaa is part of the Speaking Current network of shows and podcasts, all of which are dedicated to inspiring listeners to build lives of meaning and connection. You can find the Speaking Current network of shows wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. Lastly, if you know someone who has a story that can be shared on our show, feel free to reach out to us on any of our social media handles. We'll be back next week with another interesting story from the South Asian diaspora. And until then, take care and stay curious. And Lakshmi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.